What is going on, and welcome back to the channel, guys. We've got brand new cards and we had nerfs and buffs, so a lot has shifted in the meta. We've had cards rise, we've had cards fall. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Snapchat. If you've not been here before, this is a video podcast, and for the first time we've got audio listeners as well. We've got it available in an audio format, guys, on Spotify, the Apple Store, all that good stuff. And we've got 3 different topics on my channel and 3 topics on Alex's. And these might be my favorite 6 topics that we've had. We've got loads of topics to talk about. Today on this channel, we're going to be talking about the winners and losers in the meta shifts in the most recent November update. We've got the token shop, the first impressions, the best cards. Alex has made a list. I've made a list. We're going to talk about pool 3, if you should be buying pool 4 and 5 cards, and pretty much everything you'd like to know about the token shop. And then lastly, we're going to talk about our favorite cards with every single cost. My favorite cards, Alex's favorite cards, which ones we think make the biggest impact. Alex, what do we got going on your channel?
On our channel, we're going to be discussing Thanos Vs Galactus, the 2 big 6 drops of the patch. We're going to talk about them in full detail and discuss which one's better. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the cyber deal. The cyber deal is brand new in the shop. Myself and others, we discussed how, we wanted some more monetization options, and guess what? We got one. And then we're going to talk about the card nerfs and buffs and the breakdown and discuss how these changes are going to impact the meta moving forward and, what we hope to maybe see in the future as well.
Let's go ahead and dive into the first subject of today, and by far, one that I think we're going to spend the most time on. The meta has shifted. Now, it's still early. It's early impressions. But we've got a lot of cards that benefited a lot from this patch, and other cards that definitely tanked in value. Even if they weren't directly buffed or nerfed, they tanked, right? Because of other cards coming out. So Alex, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go ahead and talk about the winners first, then the losers, and then we'll wrap it up with the decks that I think went up and down in the meta shifting. Alex, give me a winner. Your first one off the top of your head. Which card do you think is the biggest winner, or one of them, after all of the changes?
All right, so I'm glad you asked because, there's one photo right underneath you. I've done this a couple times now. Last time was the Quicksilver hovering underneath you. Now it's Hazmat. How can we not talk about Hazmat? Like, Hazmat was literally beyond trash tier. Like, I had to sometimes remember that Hazmat existed as a card. And now, with the addition of Luke Cage, you've got actual synergy for Hazmat. And the reason why I love this is because we spoke about this like several weeks ago. We said that, like, really, when you talk about cards, you're kind of talking about them in a vacuum because you never know when something's going to get added, whether it's a location, whether it's another card, that completely changes the landscape for the other cards around it. And that's exactly what happened to Hazmat.
Yeah.
Exactly what happened to Hazmat.
Agreed, man. I think Hazmat definitely went up in value, only being 2 cost. The introduction of just Luke Cage has completely changed her viability. But another card that I thought majorly went up in value, there's one, I have about 2 that probably are the biggest winners from this giant patch altogether. But one that I think is a smaller winner is going to be Sunspot, man. I think Sunspot and Infinite went up in high value. And that's mainly because if you see one card super prevalent in the meta, other cards kind of rise up with it. And She-Hulk is just the bomb. She-Hulk is an incredible card, Alex. She-Hulk has fitted in so nicely into destroy decks and with the wave combo, and I've played her already a lot, and it's ridiculous, I'm gonna be honest. But here's the thing about it. She-Hulk is able to give so much value to pool 2 going into pool 3, like right into pool 3. It would be one of the first cards I would buy because you've got the staple Sunspot Infinite combo, but now because of She-Hulk, that rises that up even further for more energy or more power on Sunspot. And then turn 6, if you set it up right, you could play Infinite and She-Hulk, man. That's insane.
Yeah, it's insane value. I have not been fortunate enough to get my hands on She-Hulk yet. But just clearly from a design standpoint, deck building standpoint, it's remarkable. It's an amazing card. And you're right. Like, I love the idea of like a pool 2 deck list, like the Sunspot Infinite combo, which is so important to the pool 2 player base, right? Like, that is one of the absolute gravy decks of that list. And then you have the opportunity in your token shop to get lucky and be like, man, that is a huge upgrade, right? That's a huge upgrade. And you're right, the synergy is absolutely immaculate. It's a great card, a really interesting design as well. I love it. I think it's a fantastic card, and I mean, I personally can't wait for it to roll into my shop. Or, I mean, I opened like 30 collector's caches and pulled just Luke Cage, so I'm overdue for some luck here. So I hope She-Hulk's in the mix there.
Yeah, oh man, I had like really great 2 first pulls in the token shop. I had Thanos, She-Hulk. I was like, heck yeah, things are great. We'll talk about it in the next subject. And then I had 2 variants back to back. I had the Namor and the Ghost Rider, and I'm like, all right, you know, for content creating, not the best. The next card I'm going to talk about, I think it's going to be more of a conversation when we talk about the rise and falls of the decks. But man, Cerebro has benefited, if not the most, way up there, because there's so many different cards that impact this one card. Now, here's the deal, man. I wasn't much of a Cerebro guy myself before. Did you play the card a lot, the deck type a lot, the archetype?
I didn't play a lot. I liked its potential,
gimmicky.
but
Yeah.
I found myself doing like a lot of Cerebro 2, like 2 bro, as we call it.
Yeah.
I like the 2 bro list. I was trying a lot of 3 bro as well. But you're right. Like, I mean, the design space for Cerebro just absolutely got amplified, right? Like you just look at Bass, for instance, and like the other cards that actually like impact Cerebro are so huge. It's momentous to think about like what you can actually accomplish with Cerebro now. Because I mean, yeah, it's just crazy. It's crazy what you can do with Cerebro, and I think that we're not quite there yet from a deck building perspective, because I think there's so much untapped potential that no one's talking about, and there's like a definite infinite list with Cerebro in it that we haven't figured out yet.
Here's the thing. I never thought I was going to be riding to Infinite in the next season, especially with Cerebro. Valkyrie, man, this card synergizes almost perfectly. Now, Boss, like you said, she's going to bring a lot of value just to make sure that your cards are all the same power. But here's the thing. I've been running Valkyrie, which I'll tell you why that works so well. And then Thanos. Now, Thanos, funny enough, the reason he works so well is because you get another Scarlet Witch, so you can change the locations. The biggest problem with Cerebro was that their locations would mess you up a ton and adjust power levels. And now you have kind of 2 things with Scarlet being a 3 cost. Cerebro 3 just vastly went up in value. But with Valkyrie, man, let me tell you why I think Valkyrie is so insane. Valkyrie is going to even out the lane on turn 6. Everybody's 3 cost. The thing about it is, though, when you make everyone 3, your 3s are going to be boosted up. So you're going to win that lane. You're not even equalizing it. You're actually giving you the free win on that lane. So you've got Valkyrie, you've got Boss. There's just so much value that comes from Cerebro. And then new 3 costs, or new 3 power cards as well. Probably my favorite winner of the patch. The other card, like, obviously Black Panther went up with Shuri coming out. I think Devil Dinosaur with all the, Phil Coulson and the Hela Carrier bringing more cards to your hand. But one kind of archetype, the ramp archetype, if you want to call that one, Electro and Wave. Now, I think Wave went up more than Electro, but let me show you and tell you why. Electro and Wave obviously allow you to play the higher cost cards sooner, which honestly is really how you get these new extremely viable cards to work. Galactus especially. I mean, playing him on turn 6 is terrible. Turn 5 Galactus, another story, right? And same with like Valkyrie, playing her early as well. So Electro went up, but Thanos, the thing about it is Wave actually massively counters Thanos because you can't play your stones. You can't get the stones out in time. And that's a big counter. I think both of them for the ramp potential, but also for the countering of Thanos. And we thought she was going to get nerfed, and she didn't, or at least the interaction with death. Do you think these 2 ramp cards are up there in the winner-losers?
Yeah, definitely. And I like what you mentioned about Wave, because like you're 100% right. Like with Wave, it's both a tech card for and against your opponent, right? Like it's one of those things where like you could literally ruin a Thanos deck. The problem is like, does Thanos remain like in the top of the meta? Like right now, it's a very much in an experimental phase. But if he's truly competitive, then suddenly Wave is like one of the best cards in the game for that reason exactly. And it's like, does Baron rise up on the ranks too? Like, you know what I mean?
Dude, that's a great point. I love the Baron point there. One thing I want to say to everybody listening, right now, take a lot of this. I have a lot of early impressions out. Guys, the deck play right now is all over the place. People just want to play their new cards. You're not playing the usual, like Super Scroll is a great example. I think he's a great card. Right now, not as much, because people are playing just like ridiculous combos and not going to their ongoing usual staple, favorites to climb. But let's go ahead and shift the conversation and talk about the losers. Winners are great. Which cards do you think went down in value with the patch, with the update? I've got a few. There's not any major but I'm curious on your thoughts.
I've got a loser. He's
me
been a loser for a long time.
Give me that
a
loser.
long time. It's Wolverine. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, Alex, how's Wolverine a loser? Well, if you've been a loser since literally beta, and you don't get any buffs, and you're never even used in the decks and the archetypes that you're designed for, I mean, that for me categorically is a massive loser. We had another balance patch where Wolverine is just forgotten. I mean, what do we have to do for Wolverine? It's literally one of the most iconic characters in Marvel Snap. In Marvel, like, we have Wolverine and Cyclops, who are literally two of the worst cards in the game. You tell me, like, name a more iconic duo that sucks so bad. Like, you know what I mean?
So yeah, outside of like Galactus, I guess, like helping Wolverine land on that location, that's like an indirect, like, sure, maybe you have one small thing. We're gonna talk about the buffs and nerfs on your channel, but I was taken back that there was no buffs. I was shocked. Yeah. I was shocked for sure, especially some that called for it pretty high. But yeah, man, he's a loser for that reason alone. As far as the losers go, you know, I have cards like Colossus up there just a little bit with the introduction of Luke Cage. Like, it just brings down his value a bit more. But one I want to talk about, what are your thoughts on and kind of what happened? We'll talk about it with the deck type on this Destroyer. Do you think that one power decrease was major? Because from my experience going against Destroyer decks, I can lose that lane by one. I've lost that lane by one a good amount of times.
I personally don't think it's that big a deal. Like, I actually saw like the one energy drop, not the one energy, the one power drop to 15. I'm like, you know what? Makes sense, because you're right. Like, there are games in Marvel Snap that come down to that one power. We've seen it. There's how many times do you tie? Like, it's crazy how often you tie a location, right? It's actually remarkable in Marvel Snap how often that happens.
Right.
Yes, it's a significant nerf. But at the same time, the deck archetype as a whole didn't see any nerfs either. Like, it's still a great card. But you are right. It's a bit of a loser, isn't it? Because it's just, there's something about dropping that one power. And I think that someone at Second Ender did the math and was like, you know what? I bet you we knocked this win rate down just a couple percent, slow down that progression through the ladder just by taking one off the top. And I mean, it just basically forces you to kind of play the Bucky Barnes in the Destroyer lane to get that extra value with the Winter Soldier, right? To kind of amplify. Because, yeah, 15 might not actually be enough to solo win, whereas 16 kind of felt like, you know what? For him to play 16 on the other side, he's got to commit at least something legit, one or two cards. So, yeah, I think it is significant enough.
Yeah, so here's the deal. I'm going to segue into the deck conversation with this. A couple other losers, and they're not huge. Like, Psylocke and Scarlet Witch went down a little bit in value because of the Reality Stone and the Time Stone, because you're getting that at a cheaper cost. You can have them both. They're still great cards and situational. But I think they went down a little bit in value. But with the Destroyer, it's not so much him that went down. I think the ongoing deck archetype, though, man, took a massive hit. And this is mainly why. And I think it's still going to be a good deck. I'm not saying it's bad. But first of all, Super Scroll, okay? Bam. Countered a lot of ongoing. You've got this nerf for the Destroyer that hurt a ton. And then Onslaught. Now, I know that they got rid of Onslaught's, like, ridiculous power cap for a reason. But it kind of made him feel special. And kind of like what he did, you know, and the risk that you ran with him. And I just think because of the Spectrum deck and how that ongoing Destroyer deck worked, that's my first deck I want to talk about. I think it went down. I think it did go down. We're not going to see it nearly as much towards the top of the meta. Still a good deck. Still works, but definitely took a hit, especially with Super Scroll and ongoing altogether. Is there a deck that jumps out to you? I mean, maybe Sarah Miracle?
Yeah, I think Sarah's in trouble because, I mean, I actually played Sarah Negative, you know, on, I think, the 2 streams ago, and I literally lost games by the one power drop. I couldn't believe it. Like, I'm not making it up. I lost games because of the one power drop. And I kind of came to the realization that Sarah being a decently sized body was kind of important to playing her. And then now you're in a situation where that one drop, like, unlike Destroyer, where it's like, I mean, percentage wise, I mean, this is a far larger hit, right? It was 20% of Sarah's power. But overall, like, I think the deck is still playable, but it does feel harder. And so I think it's in a, I don't know. I think Sarah did get hit pretty hard.
Yeah, you know, one power adjustment, it matters in Snap. I mean, every micro decision matters just because of the limited turns. I think Sarah Miracle's still a top-end deck. It's still a great deck because you get the ability that she has. But when you take a hit to Angela, Mysterio, and her, that's 3 cornerstones of that deck. And that's the biggest problem. It's not like those it's not massive nerfs to those cards, but when you add them all up together, it starts to affect it. Now, the only, we talked Cerebro. I think Cerebro decks are going to go up in popularity. I think we're going to start seeing it in the Infinite Climb. And then I think Devil Dinosaur decks, man. They got a lot. Devil got a lot for it. Like, across the board, a lot of the new cards benefit Devil Dinosaur decks. Just all together. So I think that those are going to continue to rise up. We've seen 2 Devils really make a big prevalent impact in the meta as of this last month or so. So I think that's going to continue to climb as well. And then lastly, Zero. I think Zero decks actually are going to start showing up way more because you've got a Tuma. You've got Typhoid Mary could be playable now. Outside of even him, you could do the Luke Cage combo with Zero.
Yeah, I think that Collector and Devil Dinosaur definitely got some interesting cards like Agent Coulson and whatnot. I think those archetypes are a ton of fun to play, and so I'm so happy to see it. Like, I actually think that that's the archetype I'm looking most forward to playing. Like, obviously the Thanos stuff is a lot of fun as well. Like, we have a whole new type of deck, but like the Collector Devil Dinosaur stuff is so good. And actually, to bring up another huge winner, like, how awesome is Agent 13 as well? Like, I mean, if you're someone who doesn't have access to these cards yet, Agent 13 lets you access these cards. Right. It's just awesome, and it feeds into the Devil Dinosaur and Collector decks as well. Like, I can't believe we didn't mention Agent 13 as an amazing winner in this situation. Anytime there's new cards and you don't have them, Agent 13 wins.
There you go, right? 100%. I think like Nick Fury too will get better in time as more 6 costs come out. Like those cards that give you the randoms, 100%. That's a good pull there. All right, so let's go to our next subject. Thanks for breaking down the winners and losers. I'll have the meta report out soon, guys. The token shop impressions. Now, I wanted to bring up both of our lists here. But first of all, my most recent one I have is Helicarrier. Gonna pass it up on this particular one. But what are your first thoughts of the token shop? My first impressions of the token shop is that I feel like Series 5's Pool 5 is more common than I thought. I thought like we were going to see like Thanos and Galactus like every now and then. It was like, whoa. But I'm seeing a lot more than I thought at first because I had like back-to-back ones at first. But I thought it's a huge win. What are your initial impressions?
But yeah, like my impressions so far are incredibly positive. I think it was a great addition to the game. I think it's perfect with the identity of what they wanted with a collection system, because like you're not guaranteed to get a specific card. It's not like Hearthstone where you're like, I'm just gonna craft a card with my dust and you just go find it in the collection and craft it. You gotta wait for the RNG to get there. It actually gives you a reason to open up the game a couple times a day, be like, what do I got? What do I got? Like right now, yes. I had a Namor variant, which was super exciting, and then I got a Ghost Rider variant, also very exciting. Thanks so much for that. And then it's like, well, I don't want to spend my hard-earned tokens on these variants. I want cards. And then finally, Super Scroll ends up in my shop, and boom, I paid the money. But it's one of those things where like I actually think it's really cool. I think players are really engaging with it in a really fun way. My question becomes is what happens when people run out of their tokens? And of course they can pin, but are they going to be then a little frustrated that, you know, you're collecting the tokens at a slower pace than perhaps people expected?
Yeah, so right now it's like there's so many shiny new toys, right? Especially like entering Pool 3. The 8 hours, like I check religious. I know when this timer's going up. I know the hour. Yeah. Like, you know, one of them's like 3 a.m. and thank God it goes till 11, you know, my time. It makes, you know, I'm not going to be setting my clock in the middle of the night. But yeah, overall, man, I think the token shop was a win. I'm curious to see how the token rate goes. And just adding that as an extra layer as a reward to play the game, sign me up, man. Sign me up. So to close on this subject, Alex, let's go and talk best unlocks. Now, again, I think that Pool 3 should be, you know, the majority for a lot of people. Yeah. But we both made lists, okay? We made we made lists on what we think are the best unlocks for Pool 3 players. And I want to look at the top end of both of these lists here. Kind of go at each other.
We just have a quick conversation about what it's like as a content creator making a tier list.
Oh my,
it's like so we fun. Know we're gonna get absolutely ruthlessly assaulted in the comments. As soon as you make a tier list, like everyone is gonna hate this tier list.
Oh dude, okay, between tier lists, mispronouncing a name in the Marvel universe and like a slight misplay, it's over. Like your comments are just ruthless, and I love it,
buddy. I mispronounced the name already in this podcast. Like, literally, I did that this podcast. You can rewind and hear me mispronounce the name.
Now, for the audio listeners out there, I do want to say that we're going to try to always make this friendly for audio listening. But for this specific one, we have 2 lists that are visual heavy. So we're going to not talk about every single card that we have in these tiers, but we'll bring up some of them. If I'm looking at your tier 1 and 2, let me think of what are the ones that kind of jump out. Try to explain to me a bit as your tier 1. I'll start there. You've got Miles Morales. And I'm a bit curious. I agree with most of these. Explain that one to me.
Okay, so that's a hot one in the comment section, I know. So tier 1, we have Miles Morales. And the reason why I included Miles Morales there is it's essentially one of those cards where, like, listen, if you have any form of move archetype at all, that card is so vital to that list. Borderline every single move deck is simply better with Miles Morales in it. Even if you don't have a move deck, I mean, you're obviously not going to play it in there, but it is a 4/5, which is decent enough, but having no ability kind of sucks, of course. However, there is so much movement happening. You have the Thanos stone, or the space stone that moves. It's so vital to just move decks. So, I mean, when you're making a tier list, sometimes you got to look and say, you know what, if someone's playing a move deck, and I mean, keep in mind, move list, tier 2, fantastic. And if you're early pool 3 and you see Morales there and you want to play move lists, it's crazy. It's crazy to pass that card up. It's just my opinion.
I would agree for move. I wouldn't have him tier 1, but I agree why. To appease to move fans. Daredevil was one that when I released mine a few days earlier, people were like, "What, Daredevil?" Dude, he's one of the best cards in the game.
Easily top tier on mine as well.
Yeah, if you see
Daredevil's incredible.
If you could see your opponent's play on the second to last turn of the game, I mean, like it's just too viable. So yeah, without question. Now your tier 2 list. Tier 2 list. This is where I think you got some spicy takes. Which one do you think is like the spiciest take in here?
I'm gonna say that spiciest, like straight up spicy.
Spicy.
I'm gonna say Wasp.
Yeah.
Wasp being tier 2? That's got to be suspect, isn't it?
Yeah, I can tell that if you're an audio listener, it looks like you've got a lot of archetypes in here, like the cards that create archetypes, but like, when they should be unlocked might be tough. Yeah, Wasp for a tier 2 unlock.
Basically, the way I was thinking about it is if you have someone, first of all, it's so hard to do these lists in a vacuum because these cards interact with each other's in so many unique ways, and everyone's collection is totally different.
Yeah.
So with Wasp, my thought was this card is extremely unique in Marvel Snap because no one does what Wasp does. And considering that in my top tier, I have Lockjaw, who I think we can agree is absolutely incredible, creates a whole new archetype of its own. If you have Lockjaw and you don't have Wasp, that whole archetype feels significantly weaker. And Wasp activates that archetype in such a unique way. And so I felt like I was looking at Wasp like, you know what? There is no card that quite does what Wasp does as a 0 cost like that. Okay. And so I do think that it does fit a specific niche.
Yeah, I see that. I would say, funny enough, I don't put Lockjaw or Wasp in all my Lockjaw decks because I hate when she comes up. What? It's a free play. I get it. I understand that. But I have other ways to do it. I think that when she comes up from a Lockjaw swap, it's terrible. But I do understand. Yeah. I would actually think that Patriot Wasp is probably having like a 0/9 Wasp is pretty dang crazy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And I understand that a bit. But yeah, I would say it's to each their own. The tier 2 pick, I like it. I like the spiciness. Helicarrier as well. I saw in there. Again, I know that was early impressions for you.
Yeah.
I actually put Helicarrier. It was between C and B for me, the lower end of a tier list, because I think Helicarrier is phenomenal for Hela.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then discard. My biggest problem with it is Dracula. You actually don't want cards in your deck for Dracula. You want him to pick between Apocalypse and America Chavez. So it's kind of working against that. Now Hela, you get free cards, you get a 10 power drop, done and done. But that's I think a good wrapping point as far as those lists go. I know it's a hot subject. I know we're gonna keep talking about the token shop and have more videos out on those. Let me know down in the comments below which ones we left out or who should definitely not be there. Would love to hear y'all's feedback as well. Let's go to the last subject, my guy, because this is going to be officially the longest subject or podcast we've had, and I just want these to keep going longer and longer. So the last subject, Alex, is what is your favorite? Doesn't have to be best. What is your favorite card for every single cost? We're going to go one at a time. We'll go somewhat quickly through them, but we're going to start with the 1 cost, and I want you to go ahead and kick us off. What is your favorite 1 cost card right now?
For me, it's Iceman. I mean, when you play Iceman, your opponent is just like in their head, it has to cross their mind just a retreat. Like they get the Iceman blast, they're like, you gotta be kidding me. It just hit the exact card I need to play. And it's like, It's so annoying. Is this not the most annoying card in Marvel Snap?
Dude,
Like, is it?
There's when this hits like my magic too, I'm like, great. Thanks for yeah, it does. It's funny. I know that this is like the best one cost for the value. It's not my favorite because I just have other things that I love gimmick wise. But yeah, dude, this card is so good.
Yeah.
I do not fault you. Right now, if I was gonna pick like Quinjet, I have as my favorite just because I'm playing a lot of Thanos, right, man? Like Quinjet, I just love it with the interactions with the stones. But if I'm going for like the usual picks, like Sunspot's always fun. Nightcrawler, man, I thought I wasn't gonna use Nightcrawler as much outside of the first couple pulls. But like between the synergy with Angela, between the synergy with Lockjaw, so I actually have Nightcrawler instead of Wasp. Because when Nightcrawler comes up, you can move him out of the way. And I love that. And get another Lockjaw play. And he's only one cost, right? So he would be my pick for my probably most consistent favorite one drop. Again, let us know down in the comments which ones you guys like. Let's move to the 2 cost though. What is your favorite 2 cost?
My favorite 2 costs, and I guess there's a little bit of synergy between my 1 and my 2. It's Scorpion. I mean,
Ooh,
listen,
like
there's so many good 2 costs. Okay, there's so many good 2 costs. But I guess I must love Disruption because I like Iceman and I love Scorpion too because there is a thing, right? People are holding large hands.
Yeah.
And when you drop Scorpion on them, they're like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me. And we just finished talking about a little while ago, which feels like 2 hours ago at this point, with based on how long we're going today.
Yeah.
We talked about how like you will lose a lane by 1. Like the ties are so like the margins of error are so tight in Marvel Snap. This card is a damn good card.
Huge impact on cards like Professor X, Iron Man. Like, dude, this thing just brings complete value. Cerebro, done. You just messed up the whole deck, right? It's just so powerful. Dude, I like that pick. That's spicy. Mojo, I think, is going to get a lot more play because of more board-heavy gameplay. I think Carnage, though, might just be the most overall versatile two cost because you've got locations that suck. The Central Park, all that stuff. Destroy decks are hot. And just the way you can utilize him, you're like playing cards like on reveal, like an Iceman. You can eat him up, get that same power, open up the board space for more room. I use Carnage in so many different decks, and especially where Destroy is right now. It's hard not for me to pick him.
Yeah, can I cheat and I have to say one more?
Give me it.
It's shattering my soul. Can we have to give love to Daredevil. Like
yeah,
Daredevil is actually probably the most fun card. It's probably my actual favorite, but like Scorpion is so good right now. I keep playing Scorpion. Scorpion's like an auto include in so many decks.
Yeah.
But I think I actually got to retrace here and say that like if we were to redo this conversation, I'm like, you know what? It has to be Daredevil. I regretted not saying Daredevil, Cozy.
We were both on our high horse about him as like the best card, and then we like skipped right past him. Awesome, dude. Let's go to 3 costs. I thought 3 and 5 costs and 2 costs was pretty hard too. Were the toughest ones to pick between. Favorite current, right? Like I think Storm's one of the best for value. But what's your favorite card for 3 costs?
My favorite 3 cost right now, I mean, just from a mechanics perspective as a card, it's Gambit. It has to be Gambit.
Okay.
I mean, how do you not love Gambit? Like, just you blow up someone on the board. You got the Wong Mystique synergy, and you just turn into a giant machine gunner, like just taking out their entire board.
Yeah.
It's such a fun card. I don't know if it's good though.
He fits.
I flop on this so often. I don't know if Gambit's good, Cozy.
I think he's good for the last turn plays. At 3, hell no. It just discard deck, sure. But he does work outside of that. I like him a lot. When you pull him sometimes, he's like, oh, I'm not going to use him right now. Or other times you're playing a deck where you're like, dude, this guy's got nothing on the board. Or armor is very prevalent, so that's kind of tough. I like Gambit. I think that's a spicy choice. Like, dude, like, I'm in love with Patriot. I'm in love with all these cards. It was tough. Like, Lockjaw, just, I enjoy the hell out of this card.
That variant, yes.
But I've got to go with Electro. Again, I just talked about him. I won't go into it much further. Ramp decks are so fun. I love the high-cost cards. I love giving them away. I love destroying him and having the max energy impact. Electro is probably my favorite at the moment for ramping, with Lockjaw is a close second, and Storm's hard to beat as well. Tough one there. 4 cost, I thought was one of the more easy ones to pick between. What did you think for 4 cost? What's your favorite card?
For me, I mean, 4 costs is really interesting as well. I was leaning towards Wong, but ultimately, it's my favorite one. The favorite one to play. It's got to be Shang-Chi. When you drop a Shang-Chi and you just punch out their entire side of the board with the cards they were so confident in. Also, is Shang-Chi low-key one of the best location counters in the game? They keep adding locations that ramp power, and Shang-Chi just punches them out. You got Gamma Lab, you got basically everything from Wakanda basically ramps power. Actually, the Wakandan, the one that actually Wakanda itself actually gives the shield, so I guess that's some counter synergy there. But
everything else, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like throne room, it's like, hey, cool, bro, done. Like it's yeah. He's tough not to pick him, man. Like Jubilee's fun. Spider-Man is gimmicky. I think for me, if I was gonna pick one, I know Rescue's probably the gold standard. I actually think Mr. Negative, dude. I think just he's so fun. It just he unlocks its own archetype. Mr. Negative is just such a cool card, and anytime you have such a fun card that truly makes the game even more fun to play, that's got to be my choice. But yeah, funny enough, I was probably gonna say Shang-Chi, but then I'll give it to Mr. Negative. Let's go to 5 costs. We're gonna wrap it up with our last 2. This was the toughest one for me to decide as far as just great cards, but then I have my favorite card in here, so I had to pick it.
I mean, for me, this was by far the easiest.
There
was only one card in the 5 range for me that I had to pick, and that was Captain Marvel. I will never get sick of putting Captain Marvel on my deck. I just won't. I'm sorry. Like, I think it's a very balanced card. At 5/6, it's not enough of a tempo play.
Yeah.
This is not one of the best cards to play and just watch the, oh, you know what, I just lost. And then just like zooms and wins. You didn't even realize you're going to win. I mean, maybe that's a me problem, honestly. But
No, I agree. You know, I posted my token list on Reddit, and someone's like, why Captain Marvel? I don't understand. I'm like, she's a get out of jail free. She takes all the guesswork and math out of it. You know, you're like, where are they going to play? I don't know. Captain Marvel. If I see her on the other side, I'm usually like, I'm screwed. Like, she's so tough to play around. I do think she's perfectly balanced. I love the 5/6, and you can buff her up. That's a good pick, man. Between all of these, like, you would think I would pick Professor X because of how many times I've split them. You know, like, Devil Dino is just so much fun. If I was going to pick just one, it's got to be... Look, hey, I've got a problem, Alex. I need to tell you something. I got a problem, okay?
How many...
No, I got to... No, listen. I got to say this, okay? I know what variant I'm going to use, and I swear to God, Second Dinner knows. I know they know. They're like, hey, this Cozy guy, he's got something. He's got some addiction for Arrow. And I just keep buying the variants, and I know I'm not going to use them, but I just want them. Like,
just donating it.
What? Yeah, like this one's so great. I don't know. Guys, Arrow's my favorite card. Just such a fun utility control card. The variants are gorgeous. Help me decide, comment section. Which one do I commit to? I think it's got to be this Final Fantasy looking version.
I think you've picked the right one, yeah.
Yeah, I like her a lot.
Let's go through them one more time.
So we've got that variant. We've got this chibi looking. She looks straight out of Dragon Ball Z. Love it.
Yeah.
And then like this.
That one's awesome too.
This is so sick. I just got this one. This was yesterday. It was a 1200 too. I'm like, kill me. I'm like, oh, I had to. So yeah.
All the audio listeners tilting right now.
Yeah, and let me just describe ASMR this Arrow here as she wisps through that. Just kidding. Okay, so 5 cost, that's gonna be mine, but loads of options. 6 cost. Let's end it here. Actually, didn't struggle too much here. I love a lot of 6 cost cards. Who would you pick?
For me, again, this was so easy. You're asking me my favorite 6 drop to play, and it's Heimdall.
Really?
How do you not play? Like, Heimdall is so fun to play.
Dude, I was not expecting that.
You know what the best feeling in the world is?
Tell me.
Playing Heimdall in a non-move deck.
Oh,
and
so
watching
good.
the guy just go like, okay, buddy. Like,
so
yeah, you
good.
take your cubes and get the hell out of here. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes, dude. Okay, I like that. I honestly...
Heimdall, baby.
Heimdall over all these other choices. Arnim, Odin. Yeah? I like it.
Yeah. Like, who does what Heimdall does? It is such a trickery card. It's so good. It's a 6/8. It's good enough, but like, no one sees it coming ever.
I like the choice. I do. That's a spicy choice, man. I like that. I was not expecting it. Arnim Zola, I enjoy just because he's kind of crazy. I already talked on how much I just think Leader is just, it's Leader, man. Like, come on. That would probably be my main pick, but I already talked about it. America Chavez, though, is mine. I think the fact, dude, just Mrs. Dependable. I throw in so many decks. The fact that you can just thin out your deck with her and you get a good card on top of it, and she's great across all the pools. I don't know, man. It was hard not to pick against her. If I was going to look at purely value of what I play the most and the math behind the deck there. So we actually picked 2 pool 1 cards, man. I don't know if that would have been
that's funny.
Expected.
And Chavez would have been my second for sure. Like, if you look at any of my deck list, it's in like 95% of my decks.
Yeah, she's so versatile. But so I like it. Those were our favorite cost cards across the boards. Let us know in one comment. Put yours 1 through 6. Curious to see the viewers as well. Guys, the feedback has just been truly, me and Alex are just blown away. We love that you guys love this podcast. We care about it so much, and we're just excited to have it grow with you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming to today's episode. It was a effing long one, but we've got ourselves the other 3 subjects on Alex's. We'll see you over there.